What's up, everyone? This is Ed from This Day in Metal, and today it's my pleasure to be speaking with John Haughm, the founder, guitarist, and vocalist of the legendary Agalloch, who have reunited to play shows around the world over the last 2 years. He's also created a number of solo releases over the past decade that we'll discuss here today as well. Thanks for joining me, John. How's it going?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm all right. A bit of a snowy day here, actually, in New York. I'm based in New York, which is
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of early for us. Gives kind of that. I don't know. I knew that I had this interview coming up, and I thought how appropriate that there'll be some snowfall when I'm speaking to you, because I don't know about you, but your music kind of evokes that kind of weather to me.
Well, I grew up in Montana, so I know too well the snowy winter.
Yeah. It's a bit early for us here, but anyway, weather aside, I definitely want to talk about Agaloch's resurgence, but I figured the most appropriate place to start would be with your most recent release. That's a single 9-minute track called Born to Endless Night. From what I understand, this was done at a local studio by you, a local college studio.
Yeah, there's the Portland Cascade or Portland Community College Cascade. Basically, they have, they'll have musicians and stuff come in to do like free sessions so that their students can practice, recording and mixing and that kind of thing. And one of their students was a fan of my work,
Mhm.
and he put out a thing and a call, I guess, and I responded. And so that's basically how it happened. And I just figured, I love it. I love recording. I love working in the studio. So if I
Mhm.
could help out some students, that would be great. And if the result was good, maybe I'd release it. And that's what happened.
Yeah, so how cool is that that someone was, someone from a younger generation was familiar with your work? I mean, it's not that surprising given Agaloch's catalog, but I feel like that's got to be reinforcing to you to have somebody, studying music to be like, oh, I want the guy from Agaloch coming in here to record.
It was kind of full circle in a way because when I was in college in Seattle back in the 90s, the music department there would do the same. And in fact,
Mhm.
a few years before I actually attended, they filmed an Alice in Chains video, you
Oh,
know,
really?
their video department, So I guess the original Alice in Chains video for I don't know what song it was, but it was done at the school, and then Alice in Chains later like redid the video. But so and I had sat in on sessions in the music department as well, where they'd have somebody come in like with an acoustic guitar and record, and then we'd have to do the recording and mixing and all that. So it was cool. It was cool to be on the other end of that for
Yeah,
sure.
and then that was just an idea that you had kicking around for a little bit, and you kind of went in there to see what it would become.
I had two riffs, basically two like full riffs that I went in, and I was like, all right, let's just experiment with this. I mean, it is experimental music after all.
Hmm.
So we just built it from the ground up. We set a click track. I put down a guitar track. I did some drums, put down some bass, and on and on. And we had to do it very quickly because I only had 5 hours, and I had a lot of ideas that I wanted to get out, and for a 9-minute song, especially.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so we kept everything pretty much at one take for every layer.
Yeah.
And, it's a little loose as a result because we didn't tighten some stuff, but that's fine. And part of their education is learning how to do that. So, yeah.
That's super cool that you were able to do that and an experience for those kids too, to be able to, work with someone like you, especially being familiar with your work. That's awesome. And that's available
Yeah.
now. That was released in September, right?
Yeah, I put it out on CD, limited to 100 copies. Um, so it's an EP. And then actually the guy that I contacted, that sent out the call to have someone come in. He was the one who's familiar with my work, so
Hmm.
he actually did a remix, like an ambient remix, because he wanted to experiment with that kind of stuff, and I included that on the CD version only. Um,
Okay.
but I'm probably gonna release it on vinyl next year as part of a collection of rarities and
Mhm.
and studio outtakes and things like that. So yeah.
Cool. All right. So that's something to look forward to as well.
Mhm.
So I may be a little late on this, but you did complete your Nomad trilogy early last year with the release of The Devil's Coil.
Yes.
You were working on that trilogy for over a decade. For those that might not be as familiar with it, can you explain those three albums and a bit of the storyline that goes with it?
Well, there isn't really a linear storyline per se. It's more of an aesthetic
Okay.
thing. But the first album began as a tape release back in 2014 or 15, and I went on a trip to Nevada and Arizona, and was just became very inspired by the desert.
Hmm.
And I had a session with Daniel Minchie when I came home to record some stuff for his Beast project. And so we went in and I recorded all this stuff. Just basically, I was like all, fueled by the essence of the desert. And so
Hmm.
I did this improv studio session for Daniel, and the atmosphere of it wasn't exactly what he was looking for, but he told me I should use it for something because he said this is really, really good. It really evokes this like fiery, desolate kind of vibe. And so I did. I put it out on as a tape release, and then I did a couple, and then he finally talked me into doing some shows, some solo shows. And
Hmm.
for that, Agaloch's European booking agent caught wind of it, and he asked if I wanted to do some shows in Europe and play like Roadburn and stuff. And I was just like blown away by this, you know. And I
Yeah.
actually got an offer to open for Solstice in 2015 as well. And I couldn't believe how quickly things were evolving for this project and the
Yeah.
interest. So that was when I decided to put it out on CD because I had a European tour planned with Division Bleak and Saturnus, and I wanted to have something more than just a tape release. And so I re-released that on a CD with this awesome bonus track that Daniel kind of remixed, and that was what I put out for the first full-length album. And while I was on that tour, I kind of decided that I wanted to do something bigger with this project. So starting with that album as a launching point, I decided to make a trilogy of releases. I wasn't sure when, like how often I would release an album, and it turns out that was every pretty much 4 years.
Yeah.
But that's whatever it takes. And yeah, the storyline is basically of this sort of nomadic ghost from the 1800s who was hanged in 1899, and
Hmm.
he kind of wanders the metaphysical desert dragging his arrow with him. And so no matter where he goes, it's the 1800s.
Hmm.
Even if it's in this time, it's still the 1800s. So that's that. So when I play live, I actually dress the part. I actually dress like this nomad from the 1800s. I have an overcoat that I wear that's actually from Civil War era. It's falling
Really?
apart. It's rotting, falling apart, but it's from that era. So I try, and like a lot of the visuals, if I'm not using old film clips from his time,
Hmm.
I'm using, clips that I took from the desert, or, various other things that tie everything together. And it's really a multimedia project for sure. And playing, and especially nowadays where I'm playing with like a back, like the rhythm parts are on a backing track that's connected to the video, so everything is synced up perfectly.
Hmm.
It can basically fill in the rest of the music with the guitars and vocals and loops and that kind of thing. It really is more of like I mean, if you were to turn your back to the stage, it sounds like a band is playing, so I've managed to dial it in pretty well.
Yeah, I was gonna say there have to be certain challenges to playing that live, right? With it when it's just you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But also
I'm,
you're
I've
talking about,
been
go ahead.
oh I've been asked, why don't I just get a band to play that material live? And it's like, well, that's kind of goes against the point of a solo project,
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
true.
And a lone person, this lone character sort of soundtracking his journey. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So I just kind of say since I've recorded all the backing stuff, I'm kind of basically playing with the ghosts in the machine is
Yeah.
how I describe it.
Well, since you're evoking the 1800s, you one of the tracks you used only instrumentation that was available at that time, correct?
Yes, yeah. That was
Yeah. The
the
first
first.
track on Devil's Coil. It's a very
Yes.
long title. It mentions your name. I don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
dare mention it right now, but I remember reading that you had used only instrumentation that was
Yeah.
available at that time.
Yeah.
And that part of the story kind of is the afterlife journey. There's all cast iron blood is kind of the his mortal time,
Yeah,
right? And
basically.
then the spiritual journey is the final piece, correct?
Yeah, well,
The
yeah,
continuation of the spiritual journey, if you will.
it's like it's
Yeah,
secular. Yeah. So
yeah.
like the first album is the spiritual journey. The second album is kind of a flashback to his mortal time, and then
Uh-huh.
the third album is basically when he was hanged and and you and dissected and whatever,
Yes.
and his story began. So it begins his story begins with the third album, and it just cycles back around.
Okay. Okay. All right. It was a little hard to follow for me, but
Yeah, I mean
not
it's
just,
not a
yeah.
perfect thing, but you know it's I just thought it would be kind of cool to like end the trilogy where it begins.
Yes.
And I
Yeah. And then
literally do that on the album. I mean, the last song that would appear on the vinyl anyway, the one with the piano, "Find Him to Die To,"
mhm.
that actually has riffs or themes that appear on the first song on the first album. So it cycles around.
So everything, yeah, the themes repeat. Yes.
Yep.
My question for you then, with the coordinates of the last album, if you plug it into a map, it's a hospital in Ellensburg, Washington, which is your hometown. So does
It's
this
where I was
have some
born.
personal significance to you as
Yeah,
well?
it's where I was. That's
That's
where I
where
was
you were
born.
born. I
Yeah,
didn't want to make assumptions, but I'm assuming that's where
yeah.
you were born. So is this
And
almost you picturing a past life
in
of
a way, it's
yours?
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, originally I wanted to use the coordinates of the hospital that existed in the 1800s, but it's not there.
Okay.
It's just it's like a parking lot now.
That's the way of the world now, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the actual hospital I was born in 75 is there.
Yeah.
And I figured what an interesting way to like begin this character's, spiritual journey of death is in, at the place where I was actually born. So
hmm
it's intertwined.
Okay. So somewhat not exactly autobiographical, but weaving
No.
yourself in as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And like that whole first track, the dissection track is, it's kind of it references back in the day when when doctors and there were these sort of like medical clubs who they would get a corpse by some means
Mhm.
because it wasn't exactly like autopsies and stuff were not exactly seen as kosher back then because, superstition and whatnot. So they would have to get a cadaver through some means possible to learn about the human body and medicine and stuff. And one of those means was through outlaws that didn't have family, that were, that were executed or shot in whatever. Their bodies would just be given to some of these clubs to, and that's really where I got that idea from.
hmm A little stunning to see your own name on it, but
It's
I
funny.
very cool. Like I think the whole project is super cool. I think fans of of your work who haven't checked it out should definitely invest their time in listening to it.
And
Um,
Eisenwald just released this year the full trilogy on vinyl, and I did some extra work on the designs for those because each one has a booklet, and
yeah,
yeah, it's really it's worth checking into for sure.
I saw the ad said that there's an embossed like digipack, like it's all, very well, there's extras to it. So, I mean,
Yeah,
definitely worth checking out for sure. And you've done that kind of work on every album you've been involved with, right?
yeah, yep.
Yeah. So it's not, so I noticed with a lot of like your past interviews and what you've said about your work, like a lot of it depends, like the visual is all part of it. You're creating the entire concept. It's not just the music, it's the entire package.
Uh,
You get inspired musically through visual images. So
yes.
that's all part of it. And I think that's one of the reasons why your solo work and your stuff in Agalloch is so well revered. Like just because the care that's taken with all of it. So
Yeah, it usually begins with the image.
yeah.
And like if I'll, for instance, I have my whole fourth solo album pretty much done with the design,
hmm
but I only have two songs written for it. So,
Okay.
so
Okay.
it's in a lot of ways, once I get a visual idea, planned out, I can actually then compose and record and mix the music to fit that image really well. So it marries very, very well. Instead of just like recording some songs and then it's like, oh, okay, what are we going to do about art? Oh, we'll just hire this guy, blah, blah, blah. No,
hmm
I actually want to, I actually want to work on the music simultaneously with the artwork and the imagery. And I did that with Marrow of the Spirit. In fact, we were when we were recording that album in the studio, I had the paintings just on the in the studio with us as a sort of like reminder of what this album is supposed to
Of
feel
where we're
like.
going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. I think that part of it's so cool to me that like because it does come through when you're listening to your work. Like you are sent to this place,
But yeah,
and especially we'll get into the Agalloch stuff. I'll save it for
sure.
later.
Okay.
For the you've had an opportunity to play this stuff live too. You've had opening slots, whether it's for Agalloch, sometimes it's for other groups. You did
Hmm.
it in the Bay Area for the first time recently. I know I saw, and you did it in Australia, which you actually recorded for
Hmm.
a live release. It's called No Matter What, I Will Not Send You Into the Darkness Alone.
Hmm.
What's it been able to bring this music to? I mean, I know you described it a bit before, but what's it been able to bring those songs from that trilogy alive live? And then like, what's the crowd's reaction been to it?
Well, I love playing live with my solo project because I turn into another person in a way. I actually become the character.
Well, you have
It's
the outfit, yes. So,
you got to
it,
have the outfit and
yeah.
and the atmosphere there. And like when I did a show with Agalloch in Portland this year, and I opened that show. And I actually had created a roll, like a video roll of old-timey ads that pertain to the venue, the bands that's playing. And I had like Scott Joplin piano music playing. And I basically did like it was almost like when you go to a theater and they have like a
Hmm.
preview, but it was
Yeah,
like an old-timey kind of theater kind of
that's awesome.
and so it was like 5 minutes before I were to play, I had that on the screen, and it was hilarious, but it was also really fitting,
Yeah,
and
no,
it
it's
set
it's
the
perfect
tone.
in both
Yeah,
contexts. It works both ways.
yeah, and I it's funny people the reaction to it. It's more subtle. I think people are more interested in what I'm doing with Agalloch or whatever, but there every once in a while I'll run into somebody, after I play a set, and they'll be like, "Wow, that really took me into another time, man. That was really
Mhm.
cool." And that's fantastic. As long as there's at least one or two people who get it, I'm happy. Because I understand that this isn't going to be some widely accepted, music. It's very niche. So, and especially when I'm opening for my own band, which is very beloved,
Mhm.
yeah, I have to expect that people are probably not going to care or get it. But some of them do, and actually, I'm always surprised whenever I play a show especially with Agalloch, how much merch that I'll sell for my solo stuff. Despite the fact that there's like a mall of merch for Agalloch, people still are interested in buying my stuff as well. So that's great.
Yeah, that's great. And you're talking about, people coming up to you saying they've been brought to another time. I think that's the point, right? That they're
Exactly.
they're the ones they're getting it, what you're trying
Mhm.
to create and present and evoke on stage, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Another one of the bands that you opened for, besides Agalloch, was Obsidian Tongue. And I know you've
Hmm.
worked with them in the past. You were featured on A Nest of Ravens in the Throat of Time,
Yeah.
which is a fantastic title. That sounds like an Agalloch title, to be honest with you. Um, how did that collaboration come to be? Were they fans of yours that asked you to feature on that?
Yeah, they were. We played a show together in 2012 in Connecticut. It was a festival at the LNG Club.
Mhm,
Yeah, and it was Agalloch and Vital Remains and some other, oh, who else was it? Evoken and Obsidian Tongue was one of the bands, and I was really impressed with them when I saw them because it was just two people, but they sounded huge,
mhm,
and their music was really good. Their composition was on point. Because I'm not as interested in a lot of current um, metal bands really,
mhm,
but they really blew me away. So I kept in contact with them, with Brendan. And yeah, he was working on I guess it was their what, second album? Yeah. And he just asked me if I would be interested in doing a guest vocal spot. And I was like, yeah. And I liked the song. And so, I did that. And then we took Obsidian Tongue on one of our tours. And I ended up singing Nesta Ravens on stage with him at the Brighton in Boston. And that was really fun too. So when they were planning their West Coast tour this year, one, they wanted me to open with my solo stuff, a couple of the shows, and then he asked if I could sing Nest of Ravens for those two shows as well. And I was, yeah, of course. It's a fun experience to just get up there and just be a vocalist, you know?
Yeah, you don't have to worry about playing
Yeah,
9 minutes worth of guitar per
exactly.
song and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's great. I love that, and I love that that's like maybe a newer black metal band that's in the vein of like what
Mhm.
Agalloch did. How they're getting you in there is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, so now that we've kind of entered Agalloch territory, I know you guys have the reissues coming out, and you've been working on those, right? I think a
Oh
number
yeah.
of the albums from the back catalog have been reissued, some EPs, some rarities, and you're working on the art and design of all that.
hmm Yeah.
Yeah, and that's through Eisenwald Records, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and right, the one I'm working on now is Marrow the Spirit,
Hmm.
and that's going to be a hell of a reissue because that's that and Serpent and the Sphere are two albums that aren't bound by BMG.
Hmm.
They were released outside of the End of Records, which is now owned by BMG. And
Okay.
so the first three albums, there were territorial problems with between Eisenwald and BMG, where basically Eisenwald couldn't distribute those albums, those reissues in America outside of their American office.
Okay.
So, and that sucked.
Yeah.
We wanted we even asked BMG, it's like, can you at least press American versions of these albums? And they weren't interested because we're a tiny little speck on their radar.
Unfortunately.
So, but this one, Marrow the Spirit, not only is it fully, capable of being distributed worldwide, but it's also been remixed by
Okay.
Marcus from Imperium because we were not satisfied with the original mix of that album. I mean, we went a little bit too far with the analog, type of thing where we were like, well, what would a black metal album in 1970 sound like? That was our that was
Uh-huh.
our
Okay.
our impetus for that. And well, we got
Interesting
that result.
concept. Interesting concept for sure.
Yeah. But unfortunately, because, we were self-limiting ourselves, despite the fact that we were writing these very long, complex tracks, it made it very difficult to mix it by hand on a 1973 Nev console.
Yeah. I would imagine there are some challenges to that.
And the guy that was mixing it, he came from the krautrock background, so he understood the vibe, but he didn't understand the actual sonic quality of the music. And so the result was you get this very muddy sounding album. There's a lot of stuff you can't even hear on it. And yeah, sure, it's lo-fi, and I guess that's cool, but I don't think it suited the music, which I think was probably our strongest. Um, so
It's a wonderful album. Yeah.
yeah,
Even
when you
with the
can pick
production
apart,
that you're talking about, and even
yeah,
with, I mean, a critical ear, you have a more critical ear than maybe a listener or myself do because you're the one
yeah,
creating it. But you're saying that you're going to have the opportunity to remix it and
it's been
it's going
remixed.
to be as you intended it to be.
Yeah, in fact, okay, this kind of this kind of does relate to my solo stuff in a way because when I was on tour with the Vision Bleak in 2016, Marcus is in that band. And so I got to meet him, and we were on the bus talking one night about Agalloch, and he told me at one point, it's a shame that Marrow the Spirit sounds how the production is on that because I could have done some really cool things with that album. And I told him, it's like, it's funny you should mention that because when we were in the studio, we used his productions on other albums as reference. But my dream was to have him mix it, but at the time I didn't know how to contact him.
Hmm.
And so, here's this opportunity where I'm face to face with the guy talking about, Marrow the Spirit. And I was just like, well, would you want to remix it? And he basically said, yeah, if you have everything digitized from the tapes, then sure, send me the stems and I'll give it a shot. And so I did, and it's exactly how it should have sounded like.
That's
Now,
awesome.
the tones are the same. I told him do not do anything with the guitars aside from just EQing them,
Hmm.
but don't change any of the tones because we want those original vintage tones there. Just mix it better. Make it mix it like, like it should be a black metal production, but with those old 70s tones. And that's exactly what we got. And it's awesome. So this is going to be a huge, huge reissue.
That's
Uh,
great.
I mean, we're doing the book, we're doing a vinyl version, we're doing the cassette version. Nico wants to actually do a vinyl, like a box set that has everything in it, like the book, the vinyl, and the tape.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of work for me
Yeah.
to do, and I'm a little more than halfway through designing the book. The vinyl and the cassette versions are done, but the book's taking some time.
As I would imagine it would, but that's something to look forward to for Agalloch fans out there. And that sounds like, I mean, it's great for you to get it out there with, I mean, especially with the guy, you would have envisioned mixing it.
Yeah. Yep.
That's incredible. And that's something to look forward to for everybody, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of Agalloch in 2016, you guys did break up at that point. What made it viable for you guys to reunite in 2023?
Well, a few factors. One, after Pelorian broke up, Don and I sort of rekindled our friendship, and we were able to sit down and just hash things out, and you know, uh, kind of talk about our differences and maybe what we should have done differently. And I apologize for being an asshole, and you know, everything. We just worked everything out, and so we started hanging out a lot more, just on a friendly basis, just getting drinks and talking about music and stuff. And eventually, Jason joined with that. It took him a lot longer to get over it, um,
Mhm.
but once we did, one day we were just talking about how we miss playing live because kind of COVID was actually a big factor in this because we were getting kind of stir crazy not playing music or even going to shows. And once things started to ease up and shows started happening again, we talked about, well, what if Agalloch were to do a reunion show? And we got really into the idea, and so we started looking for drummers. And yeah, I mean, it was obviously very easy to book something
Yeah.
like that because I mean there were so many. I mean, we wanted to do something big. We didn't want to just like go to our local venue and just play. We wanted to do something that was impactful. And so, of course, Don was always kind of in contact with Martin from Prophecy because, the band that they had formed after Agalloch was signed to that label. And Martin would always ask, hey, what are the chances that Agalloch could play Prophecy Fest? And Don always would say, it's never going to happen. But then in 2022, he asked again, and Don was like, actually, yeah, I think it could happen now. And so, yeah, that was our big return was in this cave in Germany, which is
That's
perfect.
awesome. I mean, that's very Agalloch to play in a cave in Germany.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I was gonna say that was the first show you played was Prophecy Fest, but then you did one in Portland too, right? And I feel
Yes.
people traveled from all over the world to Portland,
Yeah.
Oregon to see for a chance to see you guys play. How does that make you feel that after so much time away, like people are getting on planes to come see you?
Well, it makes sense because I think a lot of people just assume that those two shows would be it. You
That's true
know,
too.
the more that we've been playing, the less the turnouts have been because I think people are like, oh, okay, they're just going to be around. They're going to do this. Maybe they'll come to my town someday.
I have a
And
story
people,
about that actually.
yeah,
I,
and a lot of
I I
people,
saw when you guys were announced to play Maryland Death Fest. I'm in New York, and I was
yeah.
like, I should go. Like, I should find a way to do this and go and see them. But I didn't. It was like a Friday after work. It would have been a mess. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna wait and see. Maybe they'll play New York at some point.
Well, you did a good thing by not going because that was a terrible show
Well,
for us.
I think I saw
Um,
your post afterwards. You were very unhappy about the sound.
well, it was mainly the monitor guy, and
Yeah.
and I we've basically said that if MDF ever wants us to play again, we cannot use that guy. That guy
Mhm.
cannot be a part of this.
Yeah.
And it turns out that I guess he's just a part of the. They just hire him every year. So, if we do that festival again, we will bring our own monitor person and our own sound person again
Mhm.
because that guy was a wow. Every band that played that stage had a problem with him.
Okay,
So
so I made the right choice at the end of the day.
yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, playing that show, having people come from all over,
Uh-huh.
and now you guys are, I believe at the time that you guys broke up, there were offers coming in to play all different parts of the world,
Yes.
if I
Yeah.
recall correctly.
Yeah.
Are you guys like fulfilling those offers now? Like you're playing places like Australia, Brazil. I
Mhm.
saw you were over in the UK. Like there's a lot of different places that you guys have been able to play. Not that you haven't played the UK before, but like different festival opportunities and different like
Right.
to play in Australia, which I think was something that was offered back then. Like, is that
Mhm.
what you guys are going for now? Is playing all these places that you dreamed
Yeah,
of?
that's exactly what we're doing. I mean, we when we were talking earlier on, we were just like, well, where are places that we haven't been? We haven't been to Australia, we haven't been to Brazil. I mean, I'd play Brazil, but
Hmm.
the Agalloch hadn't played Brazil. We hadn't played Mexico. We haven't played, any of the Asian countries.
Hmm.
Um, we haven't been to Russia. So, we're kind of fulfilling that, step by step. And we're looking at maybe playing Japan and China, maybe next year, maybe the year after. We're talking about going to Turkey. Um, we're talking about playing more shows in South America and Central America and Mexico. It's all talk right now, but eventually that talk becomes plans and then it becomes a reality. So yeah, hopefully we can do all of that while we're still able.
Absolutely. And can I make an impassioned plea to please play in New York?
Well, we're talking about that already.
Great.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
will.
we're I mean nothing's booked, but we're definitely trying to figure out logistics for it. We want to try to do New York and Chicago next year, and I want to have my solo project open for that
That'd
as
be
well.
fantastic. I would love that, and I can guarantee you, whenever and wherever it will be, I will be there. Um,
Great.
you guys also earlier this year, you had an opportunity to open for Emperor on their
Yes.
West Coast dates of it was the In the Nightside Eclipse tour.
Yeah.
I remember when the tour was announced, again, begging for an East Coast show. I won't belabor it, but I saw that you guys were on the bill, and I'm like, oh, please let it be on the East Coast. I didn't think it would be, but
Well,
I
I
know,
wanted to play the New York shows. I actually wanted to play those shows that Wolves played, but
yeah.
already booked to play Northwest Terror Fest, which was the same weekend.
Oh,
So
okay.
we were like, all right, well, we'll do the West Coast run then.
Yeah. I mean, I know Ulver was probably more influential on you guys, at least early on. But
Yeah.
when you're talking like black metal, Emperor has to be on the list, right? I mean, especially when you're
Not for
talking about
me.
music that pays such close attention to atmosphere.
I
Were
mean,
they were they
I,
influential on you at all?
I liked the first album and I liked the demos and stuff, but after the first album I kind of stopped. We weren't really influenced a lot by that orchestrated black metal stuff,
Hmm.
We're more interested in bands like In the Woods. And actually the bands from Norway that influenced Agalloch the most were bands like In the Woods, Ulver, Beyond Dawn,
Hmm.
Seigman, Thule, uh who else? The prog band Thule, not the pre-Toke band, but bands like that. Those were the Norwegian bands that we were way into. I mean, we liked Mayhem and Dark Throne and Satyricon and stuff like that, but it was never something that was influential for us.
Okay. All right. So I'm off base on that one. It was still
Yeah,
probably
a little
pretty
bit, yeah.
cool to play with them. You
It
know,
was. Yeah, it was.
yeah,
They were nice guys too. They're very, very polite,
I'm
very
sure.
quiet.
Yeah. I mean that show was great. I would have loved if Agalloch was on the East Coast, but what can you do?
Yeah.
So I need to talk about the Mantle. Beautiful, brilliant record. To this day, one of my favorite albums ever. I remember the day it came out. I had it. I listened to it all through high school. I had one of those like CD booklets where you'd keep like a few, and the Mantle was always in there for me.
Okay.
I loved it from first listen. Um, but I remember listening to it. I had heard Pale Folklore. I had discovered you guys. I knew Pale Folklore was out there, and then The Mantle was the first release I think that I bought like new first day. Um, so like when I listened to it, I noticed it was significantly different from Pale Folklore. Were there any like fans or even people in the press that like misunderstood what you guys were going for with that album initially, or was it just so just a natural part of the progression for you guys? I mean, I don't
Um,
think there was any bad press around that album. That album's
oh,
incredible.
the Mantle? Oh yeah,
Was
there was.
there was? Okay, so I'm
Oh
not off
yeah.
base since yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot of really bad reviews for that album. In fact, it surprised the End Records just how poorly it was initially the reaction was.
That's insane to me
Yeah,
because now okay, so what are we 23 years later? It's on everyone's list of some
I
of
know.
like the best metal albums of all time.
But that's the thing, man. It's like sometimes it takes time for people to come around, and some albums are challenging enough that, you know, you won't like it at first, but after a couple of years, you come back around to it, and it speaks to you differently. And I think that's maybe what the Mantle did for a lot of people, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe, there I think some of it, I've read things where it's like it's almost half instrumental. I remember reading an interview with you at like the time of release, and you were like talking about Odal, which to this day, if someone asks me about getting into metal, I will send them that song. I'll be like, listen to this song. Like you are wrong about what can be under the label of metal. Like that's such a gorgeous song. And you said something along the lines of, can you imagine this song with words? And it would ruin the song. I don't know where
Would.
I read this interview, but it's stuck with me through the years. And every time I hear that song, I'm like, yeah, I can't imagine. Like this is a perfect
No.
song as it's written. Like it could not be,
Right.
you know. So do you think maybe the instrumental nature in the beginning maybe put people off to it, or
I,
because
I think a lot of it was just the use of our acoustics all the time and the pacing of the album uh, compared to Pale Folklore. Plus, we did some really weird stuff. Like the Hawthorne Passage has a part that's almost got honky tonk piano in it. Um, the it's funny too because when we were in excuse me. Okay, when we were at Maryland Death Fest, we were in our little trailer because they didn't have a backstage. It just had this like trailer, and I was hanging out in this trailer with the guys, and the singer of Arcturus knocks on the door, and he comes in, and he's like, "I love you guys. Oh my God, I love the Mantle." And he was just going gushing and gushing about the Mantle, and I'm just thinking, "Holy shit, you're fucking Vortex from Arcturus," you know. Um, but then he was just like, "But I hate that last song." That Desolation song. You should have never had that on the album. It's fucking shit.
well, nice to meet you too.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like maybe it was stuff like that. People were just like, "Oh, this album would be perfect if it didn't have this part or whatever." I know that when Shane Breyer, the ex member of Agalloch, uh, heard the album, he was pretty pissed off at our use of the samples because we used them in their mother tongues instead of English, and he just thought that we were just the most pretentious asshole for
I I
doing
don't
that.
I don't know. It adds to the whole thing for me. I
Yeah,
can't say a bad word about that album. That album is perfect to me. But I guess really, as with all music, it's subjective what people hear, But for
right.
me, that is tops for me. That is one of my favorite metal albums of all time.
Cool.
Um, so I know that we talked a lot about, basing things on images. That's based on a journey around Portland and the Pacific Northwest, right?
Yeah,
Some
basically,
loosely.
I wanted it to be almost the antithesis of what we were doing on Pale Folklore, which also technically, if you consider the photos in the booklet for Pale Folklore, those were all taken on Mount Hood, not far
Yeah.
from here. So, but no, the Mantle, I wanted it to have more of an urban vibe, like Portland in autumn in the rain kind of
Hmm.
vibe, that gray bleakness. But it does sort of the musical journey of that album is kind of based on an actual drive that you can take.
Okay.
That circles around down the gorge and through Mount Hood and back into the city. Obviously, that drive is a lot longer than the length of the album,
I
but
was going to ask that because
yeah.
I would do that. I would go out to Portland and listen to the album and do it. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it really worked though, because when we finished the album and I was listening to the master in my car, well, a copy of the master, um, around on a rainy day, in the evening in Portland, it fit perfectly. We nailed the atmosphere of Portland at that time at night in the gray sky and everything. So it was definitely a success.
I would say so for sure. Um, so, all right, I'm done gushing about the Mantle. But do you have plans for any new Agalloch material? I know probably your solo stuff, your new solo album is at the forefront, but is there any plan eventually? Has it been talked about at all?
It's been talked about. I actually gave the guys an 8 minute track, like a demo of a new song that they haven't really done anything with. That was almost a year ago.
Hmm.
Don's given me a couple of riffs. It's I think we don't have the motivation really.
Hmm.
I think our lives are a little bit too complex right now. The only one that's really pumped about making another album is Hunter, our drummer,
Hmm.
probably because this would be his first time playing on an
But
Agalloch album.
yeah,
But the rest of us were a little bit more, I think, nonchalant about the whole idea. I would want to only do something if it's going to be really, really, really incredible. And I think unless we have that push, that impetus to really, go for it, I don't think the result would be that great. Because you can't do something half-assed. You can't do something where you don't put your heart into it. And for me, my heart is in my solo stuff, and for
mhm,
Jason, it's in his Moonbladder project and stuff. And like Don's working on the new Sculptured album, and you know, do we have a lot of stuff that's kind of in the way of a possible Agalloch album? Um, yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious to see what it would sound like to play with Don again, or to compose songs with Don again, because it's been since 2014.
yeah,
And we're very different musicians and different people. We've had different experiences in the last, 11 years. So I'm guessing the music would reflect that.
yeah.
But so as of yet, they haven't really touched that demo I sent them. So
Okay, so it's not a hard no, which is I think
not a hard no.
there's a flicker of hope for for some kind of new material at some point, whether it be you guys have done EPs throughout the years, you've released single songs in the past, so
Yeah.
there is a flicker of hope that a new Agalloch song might see the light of day at some point.
Hopefully, I mean, I like it when bands can come back and they come back with a vengeance. I think that
Mhm.
the new Coroner is a really great comeback album.
Yeah,
Celtic Frost made a really great comeback album. So I think we just have to follow that same that same thought, I guess,
yeah.
and do it with as much passion and quality as we can. And we just have to find the passion, I guess.
The
I think we're
passion
I
is
think we're
seems to
just
be the yeah.
I think we're just really enjoying playing shows and revisiting the classic stuff right
Yeah.
now.
Which is
Um,
great, which is great because me personally, I never thought I'd have an opportunity to see you guys perform live. So I'm very grateful that you guys are back um, in that regard. So we're
mm,
talking about, the passion and coming up with things that have artistic integrity. To kind of wrap up here, you've long said that you prefer to have a cult following making the music you want to make as opposed to widespread fame being inauthentic. I think throughout
exactly.
your whole career, you've stayed true to that with an insane level of artistic integrity, whether it's your solo stuff or Agalloch stuff. What does it mean to you to have created something that's so cherished by your fans and then doing it, unapologetically on your own terms?
Well, I always feel that inauthenticity is the death of art.
Yes.
So you have to you have to do what you want to do and what you're passionate about and not give a damn what people think. That said, when people really f feel it and understand what you're doing and feel that same passion back to you, it's wonderful. But we can't ever fall into the trap of wanting to, make something that's only going to appeal to the fan base. You got to make something that's going to appeal to you first and foremost. And if the fan base hates it, then whatever.
Mhm.
And that's once again, I'm going back to the solo stuff. It's very much like that. I mean, most people probably don't like what I do solo. They wish that I wouldn't waste my time with that and make another Agalloch record, I'm sure. But my heart's not there. And if your heart's not in it, then don't do it. Simple. And I think that when you do something out of passion and do something on your terms and without any influence from a label, the fan base, expectations, any of that, you can come up with something that's pure and something that's authentic and something that will probably resonate with people in the long run, you know?
Yeah. That's true art, I feel.
Yeah,
That's what true art is, right? So
yeah.
I commend you for doing that. I thank you for taking the time to speak with me. This has been a pleasure for me. I've loved Agalloch since I was in high school, since I heard Pale Folklore. Um, if you want to check out John's solo material, you can go to his Bandcamp page, hom.bandcamp.com. For more information on Agalloch reissues we discussed earlier, check out Eisenwald Records web store and stay tuned for more updates about new Agalloch shows coming in 2026. John, thank you so much, man. This has been super
Uh,
cool. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
And if you guys come to New York, if I can make one impassioned plea for you guys to play You Were But a Ghost in My Arms, it would make my life.
Oh man, that song. I
I
thought
love
I
that
thought
song.
I thought Australia would be the last time we played that song.
I mean, I personally, I love that song. But
Yeah, it's
thank you so much for doing
yeah.
this. Hopefully, I'll see you guys next year if you come through.
All right, great. Thank
All
you so
right.
much.
Thanks, man.
All right.